What's up, guys? CryptoSavy here. Hope everyone's having a wonderful day. We are going to be taking a look at Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, and at the end of the video, we'll take a look at the Dow and Jones Industrial Average and see what I think may be happening. Should be a good video. Definitely stick around, watch the whole thing. Don't forget, we have a free Discord group in the description below the video. There is a link down there, and let's get on with it. All right, guys, as always, this is not financial advice, investment advice, none of that. There's a disclaimer scrolling on the bottom. Make sure you read it. And always remember, this is my opinion, not yours. We're going to start out with the news and just take a look at the headlines to kind of get a feel for the sentiment. Rising wedge breakdown threatens 7K Bitcoin price target. Bitcoin's firm rejection confirms dire possibility move to the 6,000 region. Bitcoin price facing new death cross. Suggests no 10K. Billionaire demands Facebook reveal who placed scam. Bitcoin price analysts let the uphill run begin. So it's kind of mixed. There's a lot of bullish, a lot of bearish. Price rejected at 69, resistance at 48. Making Bitcoin go viral. Could endless printing trigger a Bitcoin run? Well, let's take a look at the fear and greed index. We're at 14. Yesterday we were at 13. We're still in the extreme fear. We raised 1 point. Something I've noticed for a while, we've really been playing around this 6,666 level. Is it the whales playing with us? Who knows? But let's look at the 55 EMA on the monthly, and that is laying right around the 47.54. This actually looks like a really bullish candle on the monthly, but things can change very rapidly. We're going to take a look at the weekly, and then we'll take a look at the weekly RSI. So on the weekly, we have double topped over here at the right around the 7,020 range, $7,000 range. If you look at the EMAs here, they are looking to turn bearish as the 21 is looking across the 21 EMA. If that closes the weekly, that should cross. If that happens, we're most likely going to be headed down more, guys. But remember, we do have this major support at around the $5,400 range, and we'll take a look at the smaller time frames. It makes a lot of sense. But this is the 200 EMA here, and that should be pretty good support. If that breaks, then obviously we're looking at these lower lows, and I will show you my targets for those. My lowest target here that I believe we could hit is, it's off of before we had our 2017 run. There's a bunch of wicks down here this trend line's off of, and if we were to come down by the end of May, we could be looking at, or actually it's about the first week of May or so, we could be looking at the 25.56. And I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm saying that's a possibility. Let's look at the RSI, and this will have a lot to do with what happens this week also, I believe. Back in here in 2014, we capitulated below this red support and resistance line on the weekly RSI. Then we came back above it, tested it for support, and had our bull run of 2017. And then in 2018, we capitulated below it again, broke back above it last year, came back down, retested, got support, and came back down again. We are now above it. Now, that doesn't mean that we continue, straight up from here. Most likely we'll come down to retest it again in the next week or so, coming weeks. Let's look at the daily. So in daily, been looking at this rising wedge. Everybody's starting to talk about it now. As you guys know, we started watching it here first. So the 55 EMA is going to be right around that 76 to 7,700, and we have this red support and resistance line that has been extremely significant in the past. So that is the highest I see us most likely going. Could test the top of this. I mean, actually, we could go all the way up to the golden retracement zone around the $8,000 range before coming down. But it's starting to look pretty bearish, guys. A lot of this depends on what the Dow does today, in my opinion. I know a lot of people like to think that Bitcoin isn't correlated. Unfortunately, that is not the case right now. We are still tied to the regular traditional stock markets big time. I'm sure in the future it may decouple, but we're not decoupling right now. So anyone that's saying that is just, you know, grasping for some kind of hopium. But anyways, 21 EMA here, we are getting rejected on that, and as of right now that sits around the 67,000, a little above 67,000. We have been getting rejection there. And if we were to come down today, the bottom of this wedge is going to be right around the 72, right around the 72.20, 72.40, somewhere in that range. If that breaks, then we're most likely, so look for that 62, I'd say 62.30, 62.40. If we break that, we're most likely headed down to our next support at 5,400. But before we get up there, or down there, we do have major support, and our 8 and our 13 EMA are going to be right here on the daily at the 6,400. It's going to be pretty heavy support there. If that breaks, like I said, look for the 6,250, and if that breaks, most likely at least going to go test the 5,400. But the measured move of falling out of this wedge is, if we were to fall out today, our measured move is going to be around the 4,100, 4,150 range, which would also line up with this long-term trend line. And that's not to say we fall straight down there in a day. It could take a day, could take a couple days, could take a week. Timing the market is near impossible. But to get to our targets is not impossible. So if we look at this as a flagpole, and this being a bear flag, which I don't believe it is anymore, but the possibility is still there. The measured move of that, if we were to break down today, would be around the 25.89, which also lines up with right with our 25.50 here. So somewhere in that range is definitely a possibility. So don't count that out. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but don't count it out. Now, if we, like I said, we could come up from one more test up here around, we're going to have major resistance. If we do continue up from here at the 7,200, we might get rejected there. Next point of resistance is around the 55 EMAs and this resistance line here at 77. And then, of course, we have the 200 EMA up here right around the 80, right around 8,000 to 8,200, depending on when we would get up there. If we look at the RSI here, the RSI actually looks kind of bullish, but it does look like we're going to have a dip down, and I pointed this out yesterday in a live stream, the possibility of this forming an inverse head and shoulders in the RSI. So keep an eye out for that. That could definitely be a possibility. Of course, that's just pure speculation right now, but a lot of times Bitcoin does like to do that. Let's look at the price action, and what would that lead in the daily. That would get us down most likely to at least this 5,400 before continuing up, if that was to play out. Let's look at the 4 hour. 4 hour, we are sitting on top of all the EMAs here. The 8, the 13, the 21 have all crossed the 55. We are getting support right now. Actually, we are all the way up on top of the 8, and that 8 EMA is lying right around the 66.40. If we are to break down, this could be bullish here. This could also be bearish. Let me show you real quick. If we drew some trend lines in here, and this is just kind of to show you guys real quick what this possibility of this being. This could be a reversal diamond forming here. I am not real confident in the trend lines on this, but it is a possibility. I do want to point it out. And that being a reversal diamond, if we did a measured move off that, you'd measure from the tip of the diamond down to the bottom. If we were to break down here in the next 8 hours, the measured move off that would be around the 6,080 range. But that would break this trend line here that we've been talking about, this bottom trend line. If we do break that, we talked about the measured moves there, and put it up here. It's going to be around, see, I have this, it's a rising wedge in the daily, but when we look at it in the 4 hour here, it is a possibility that this could be just a rising channel. it's kind of hard to say. I do have this trend line up here that would still make it a rising wedge, so keep that in mind. But if we were to break this bottom trend line, this is what's important. We could be looking all the way down to that 4150 range to the $4,400 range. Let me put this up here. Somewhere in this range would be the measured move. And again, we have the worst case scenario, which would be that 2580, 2560 range. But keep in mind, we could definitely pop up and hit our 72 target up here. This is definitely a no trade zone in my opinion, guys. But if we do break that 7250 range, then most likely you can count on the 54. But again, we'll have the 64 here, which is the 0.382 fib. That should support us. If it doesn't, then we'll be looking at these lower lows. And that would be turning all the EMAs bearish on the 4 hour. Let's look at the RSI. RSI does look kind of bearish to me, guys. As you can see, we're in a rising channel here. If we do break this channel in the RSI, that will be confluent with all this. We will be heading down. Look at the Litecoin. Litecoin on the 4 hours, same thing. We are battling with this trend line here. This is a long-term trend line. We have pierced it. This was an old falling wedge here. We talked about this yesterday or 2 days ago in the stream, the 4129. I have this resistance line here. We did get rejected there. EMAs are looking kind of strong. Well, not really strong, but we are on top of all the EMAs here. They all have crossed up. Good possibility by looking at the RSI, if we do break this bottom trend line, Litecoin will definitely be going lower. If we break this bottom trend line, the same thing, rising channel here. Let's do a measured move. Well, that would be the bull flag or bear flag. Okay, looking at the rising channel, do a measured move. If we were to break down in the next 4 to 8 hours, we would be looking at $25, $26 Litecoin would be my target. Of course, we'll most likely get some support here around the 30 range, around the $30 range, which is another long-term trend line. And I'll show you where it comes from. Right off of these wicks all the way down here. So possibility of the support at 30, but if that breaks, then we're looking at 2581. But just like in Bitcoin, if we do manage to break up here, keep support on this 0.236 fib, we're able to break the 41. I'd be looking for the 47, which is the 200 EMA. And then we do have the 0.5 fib that lines up with this long-term trend line that we broke down out of here. When we broke down, we tested it as support and continued down. If for some reason we can get bullish here, we could be looking at that $47 area. If that was to break, we could retest this trend line around 54. But that may not happen until we break down here. So, yeah, like I said, guys, Bitcoin has been in limbo here forever. Litecoin's following. Ethereum, same thing. Our targets for Ethereum, if we were to break down past the $130 range, excuse me, we'd be looking at around the $89 Ethereum. And if we looked at this as a flag pull, this being a bear flag, which it's a little long to be a bear flag, so I don't rely on that much, but be around the $39 range. Let's look at the RSI. Same thing, guys. Keep an eye on this RSI on the 4 hour. If we do break this bottom trend line, we are falling bearish. Yeah, that's what I'm looking at there. Let's look at the pre-markets. Make sure this is refreshed. The pre-markets, the Dow Jones Industrial is down 122 points. Do we continue this rally this morning or not? That's what we're going to talk about. If we look here, we have a falling wedge in the RSI. If we're able to pop up above that, this will continue our rally. And as you can see, this is the 4 hour, guys. We'll take a look. I'll zoom out a little bit and show you what my targets are long term. But we have come down to the 21 and retested it yesterday at the end of the day. If we are able to rally up today, we could come back up to the 382, which is around 22.5. I would expect a rejection there. If we are able to break that, I'd be looking more towards the 23.5, and that lines up with the 55 EMA on the 4 hour. I guess it's possible we could come all the way up to this $2,500 to $2,600 range, or 25 to 25,500 point range. I always say dollars. I'm just used to Bitcoin and Litecoin and Ethereum. But anyways, this would be the highest I see us going, guys, actually, and getting a rejection from there. I could be wrong, but I definitely think this is a sucker's rally. They're putting it on the news like, you know, it's the greatest thing, raised 10% or 11%, whatever it was yesterday, and the market's back. That is how people get burned, guys. I think it is way too early to be buying into anything in traditional markets, but that's my opinion. I could be totally wrong. Let's look at the long term. I'm going to go into the daily and show you what my measured moves are here. Excuse me. All right, so same thing in the daily. The daily is in a falling wedge here. If we're able to break that, you know, could get a nice move. We actually could get up to, I mean, the 0.786 fib of this move is around 27,000 points. I just don't see it, guys. I really don't see it. I think we are definitely coming down to these lower lows, and here are my targets. All right, so the first target is, we were looking at this, and this is where this would be resistance, I believe, when we broke this main support here. We had a measured move breaking down from there at the 16.8. I still believe that we at least get to the 16.8. I also have another, we draw this trend line here off of these wicks. We did pierce it, so in my opinion, that's broken. And if we did a measured move, looking at this as a megaphone, bring this up, measure the width of the megaphone where it broke, and bring it down. Guys, we could, if this 68.8 doesn't hold, we could be looking at a 91 or 9,200 point Dow Jones Industrial. I know it sounds crazy, but it's definitely a possibility, guys. We could possibly see that this year if this 16.88 doesn't hold. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave your comments down below, and all you have to do to subscribe is click the CryptoSavy logo above my head. Thanks a lot for watching, guys, and I'm out.